And it's hard. It's really hard when you've put stuff in as a dev team for years making this game to have people say how bad it is.
That's 2, and you guys you've been pretty public in mentioning that you plan this out as a trilogy from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
Have you made any sort of changes to what that plan was based on how Mass Effect 1 was received or what the fans said, or was it really sort of you had the 3 stories and you've known for years what this is going to look like?
The 3-act story is the story that's been there from the very beginning.
It's funny. People think that we have like this giant flow chart where we know everything that's going to happen and all the rest of it, but it's not true. Story grows organically with us. We don't know how many plot points we're going to bring across for ME3 until we start figuring out ideas that we want to do.
And we're joined today by Mac Walters from BioWare.
That's right, lead writer on Mass Effect 2. It's a new role for me. Drew Karpyshyn was the lead writer, and then I killed Drew, and now...
The final question, you're going to wrap us up. It's kind of appropriate because it has to do with the endings in Mass Effect 3. This is from Amethyst. I can't even say that.
Amethyst?
Thank you.
I'm not even seeing the word.
Amethyst
That's how good I am.
Star 94. Are there different endings? Will it be able to play after the main story and more stuff with your love interest afterwards? You can answer as many of those as you want. It's 3 kind of 3 questions. I'll let you choose one to answer of that bunch.
Sure. There was actually one that I missed from before, which was, something about what can you do on the Normandy, or will it be back, or what's different. So going back to that previous question, the Normandy is the Normandy from, it's still the SR2, so it's the Normandy that you saw in Mass Effect 2. But since Commander Shepard is detained in hearings on the Earth, the Alliance now has taken ownership of the Normandy. So some of it's been retrofitted, some of it's not finished being done, some of it has new rooms or some changes. So there's a bunch of different things to explore and find out about the new Normandy. But it is actually the same ship. It's the big one from Mass Effect 2. So what was the other question?
The other question had to do with the endings.
The endings. So yeah, we will have multiple endings, of course. In fact, that is really the huge payoff of Mass Effect 3, is that because we've designed this as a trilogy, and we know it's the end of the trilogy, and you know it's the end of the trilogy, this is where all the endings can diverge as much as we possibly can, where we can take all of your story decisions and have those affect how the entire game, the entire trilogy comes down to those final moments and really changes everything in different ways for everyone who plays it.
I think one of the really neat things about video games as a medium is that there can be a message in them without making a statement. With a passive medium like a book or a movie, it kind of has to, it can raise questions, and I think that's usually what people respond to the best, is when a movie raises a question that makes you think about it. Sometimes it makes a statement. But the great thing about a video game is that you can explore an issue and let a player explore their thoughts on the issue interactively. And so you don't have to say something specifically about, for example, in Mass Effect 3, the idea of organic life and synthetic life, and whether synthetic life will ever rival our intelligence, and whether we should incorporate technology more and more into our bodies and things like this. You can explore those ideas and experience some of the consequences and think about what you think is right, without the game having to make a statement on it. And to me, that's more interesting. Anyone who knows about how games get made, would say that it's a miracle that they happen at all, because a lot of games get cut, don't pass green light, or a series will get canceled. So to be able to say that you're doing a trilogy and then actually come through on that, and especially the way that we're ending it, I think in a really satisfying way for people with Mass Effect 3, I think people are going to really be into it. Yeah.
It was all a dream.
Talk a little bit about your reaction to the ending of Mass Effect 3, because I don't think in the world of gaming there has ever been this kind of outcry or this kind of hysterically angry reactions to an ending that people just seem to object to so much.
Yeah, I think, it was definitely unexpected. We would never write anything that would intentionally, cause, some of our fans to, dislike the ending or the way that the game went.
The major question was, okay, Joker's flying away towards this planet, which he crashes on, being damaged by the explosion from the relays and stuff like that. What planet is that? And they said, well, it's just kind of a generic jungle planet, or, it's a garden world and stuff like that. And I'm like, I just made the galaxy map. There isn't a garden world near Earth.
Unlike Dragon Age, giving you Commander Shepard for 3 games, and from the start of the 3rd game, we knew that, and foreshadowed pretty strongly that this was the end of Shepard. We knew that we were going to have Shepard sacrifice him or herself, and trying to foreshadow that through the game, trying to honor that. And at the end, I think a lot of the fan reaction, this doesn't mean it's unjustified at all, is just grief.
Endings are super important, and they're very hard, right? Especially the end of, like, not just the game, but this whole trilogy, right? And you need a lot of time. And I'll be honest, I don't know that they were given the time they needed to pull it all together. I feel like, and this is me speaking as someone who wasn't part of the project, didn't see what was going on.
Of course.
Because there's a lot of really good stuff in Mass Effect 3. Like, as a game, it's a really great game. But a lot of people sort of, the last thing you see is that ending, and it didn't work for a lot of people, and I understand why.
The war is over. The Reapers have been defeated. We'll honor those who died to give us that future.
They listened, and they made the extended cut because it was the right thing to do, and release it, for free to the fans, because again, it was the right thing to do. And probably shouldn't say this, there was discussion, should it be charged? And Casey Hudson said, no, we can't do that. We have to make this better. We can do a better job finishing the game, providing clarity, answering some questions. And it was very important to the team to end it as best as possible. And I think with, the extended cut and then the DLCs ending with the Citadel, I think now we're at a good enough spot.
Some of the most raw responses I've gotten have been people who are grieving because a character that was really important to them died, and died for a worthy cause, but died, and that sucks. And I think it's an important story to tell, and I'm glad we told it. And it's also been fascinating to see what we learned from that.
And so I'll get people who come up and be honest and say, man, it kind of broke my heart with the ending, but I understand why you did it. But then I also get the people who come up and go, I love the ending. I thought it was great. I understood why Shepard needed to die. That made sense. I think, one of the biggest lessons learned is that when you're dealing with a character where we've given you so much choice over deciding who you are, how you're going to behave, even just the way you're going to look, and then we take something as fundamental as whether you live or die, and take control away from the player for that. In conjunction with some of the other things that came up, people wanted more answers. They wanted a little bit more closure. But I think we greatly underestimated just how some people would react to that. And we did our best. We got a lot of really good constructive feedback and ideas from the fans, and we took a lot of that. We put it into the extended cuts just to make sure that we were helping those people out and giving them what they had been expecting and what they wanted. But yeah, it is what it is. It's been out now. It's been almost 2 years now since that happened, and lessons learned, and we move forward the best we can.
But one thing we should sort of talk about a little bit is obviously, it was a year ago, I guess, when Mass Effect 3 came out, and this year SimCity got the wrath of the internet, but last year there was a lot of controversy around Mass Effect 3 when it came out, and that it's all behind us, and I think there have been a lot of great DLCs that have come out. Casey, wanted to at least give you a chance to sort of talk to the fans a little bit about sort of that experience and sort of where things have ended up now, everything that came with it.
Yeah, when everything that we do and what we talk about as we're building stuff, it's all about trying to create magical and memorable experiences for people. So, of course, that's what we would have wanted everyone to feel about the endings. And so as we were working on the game, we're working super crunch time all throughout the project. And then especially towards the end, we're heads down, really just trying to finish out the story that we've written. And one thing that we didn't anticipate, and it just kind of had no way for us to get perspective on, was what it's like for a fan, especially as we're kind of wringing out these really deep emotions throughout the third story. We had no way to sense what it's like for fans to go through that emotional arc and arrive at the ending, and what those fans really wanted to see more of. And when we saw the feedback from the endings, we were very careful to listen to all that feedback, and when we were able to kind of get our heads up and look at how things turned out and look what fans were asking for, that's when we realized, there are things that we wanted to add. We were actually really excited to build out some of these things that the fans were saying that they wanted to see more of. And so that kind of led to the extended cut, where we got really excited again, really passionate about building some of these moments out, kind of rounding out the experience for people. That's kind of been our journey, is we always want to listen to our fans, build that feedback into what we're doing. Ultimately, what we do is interactive entertainment, and it's true on a meta sense as well. A lot of the way that the trilogy unfolded was looking at what characters people liked, looking at kind of experiences people wanted, and then building that into the ongoing story of the series.
Yeah, so we knew it was going to be a trilogy right from the start. We were pretty sure that's the direction we wanted to go. And the idea was, in the first game, we wanted to introduce the Reapers. In the second game, we wanted to, expand on what the Reapers were doing, sort of build on that. And then the third game, you would finally get the ultimate victory or find the ultimate ending to this Reaper threat. But we didn't have a lot of the details fleshed out. You have to be flexible. So we did the first Mass Effect game. It's pretty much a standalone story on its own. It has a complete, beginning, middle, end. And then from that, we then, went to Mass Effect 2 to keep going on it. And we took things that we didn't know, like we didn't know people would kind of react to Cerberus the way they did. We thought they would just be this small little detail thing that, comes up in a couple little side missions. But for some reason, it resonated with people, and it became a much bigger part of the universe than we initially expected. So when we went to Mass Effect 2, we were like, well, we need to bring Cerberus into this more. We need to make this more of a part of the story. And I was there for the first two games, and then the reason I left was mostly because I was moving to Austin. I was tired of, I grew up in Edmonton, and I just was tired of the winters. They're brutal. BioWare had opened a studio in Austin, Texas, that was working on the Star Wars MMO. So it was a good fit. That's the reason I left Mass Effect. There wasn't anything political about it. There wasn't anything, I'm still on good terms with most of the people on the team. A lot of them are still there. And we had a couple ideas for the third game. We had 3 or 4 different ways we could have gone, ideas we had thrown out, but they were very, very raw. Nothing was fleshed out. We had said, well, maybe dark energy is the key. Maybe something about humans is unique that causes something. Maybe there's this, maybe there's that. We had always said one of the options was maybe you can let the Reapers win, but we didn't really have any of the details fleshed out. And I left knowing that whatever we had talked about was going to change so much that I wouldn't recognize it. You got to accept that. If you're not going to be part of the project, you have to realize that other creative people are going to come in and do their thing. So,
Sure.
For me, it was something that I had been part of. I definitely enjoyed my time on Mass Effect, but I made the decision to move on. For a lot of it was personal things in my life, like I say, wanting to move to Austin, and it just wouldn't have worked. The team was up in Edmonton. I wouldn't have really been able to work on the third Mass Effect. So for me, it was kind of like, yep, I've done my part, and now it's time to hand it off to someone else. And they went in different directions. I don't know that I would have gone in the same directions. The stuff they did do wasn't really stuff that we had talked about, but I knew that was going to be the case when I left. So, you just have to accept that.
Everybody's Shepard's story is their own canonical ending. Some of the universal truths about the ending of Mass Effect 3, the Reapers were definitively defeated, the Illusive Man is out of the way, and now any of your friends and allies who have survived can now sort of carry on in that sort of chaotic universe.
Well, I'm always leery about speaking out like this, because when you're not part of the team, it's very easy to say, well, here's what I would do, and you sound like a genius, and it's a much more complicated process. For me personally, I'm not even sure what they're going to do. Part of me wants to see Shepard return because, Shepard is so iconic and then tied in with the series. On the other hand, it's difficult if that's not, if that doesn't work for what they're trying to do. Maybe you need to take things in a whole different direction. I think there's something interesting in looking at a universe that doesn't have the math relays working anymore and how that impacts it. And if they want to go in that direction, I think the natural logical step is to make the first game about trying to, get the mass relay network working again, if that's possible, things like that. The great thing about the Mass Effect universe is it's so detailed and it's so vast and so rich that there's a lot of different ideas out there that you could grab onto that I think would make a great story and a great game. And it really is a matter of just getting the team to focus on the right idea, and I'm confident that the people involved are going to do that. So I'm actually very interested to see what direction they take it in myself.